Simon and Sam will come to your calls in just a few moments. You want to talk about the storm as well. We'll come to that in just a tick. I'm joined first by the Security Minister, Damian Hinds, Conservative MP for East Hampshire. Thank you for being there for us, Minister. First of all, is it the position of the British government now that Vladimir Putin has made up his mind and is going to invade Ukraine?
It's the position of the British government that we have to be ready for whatever Vladimir Putin decides to do. The unavoidable truth is that there is this huge build-up of military personnel and equipment, on multiple sides, multiple fronts to Ukraine. There is no sign of that build-up slowing, let alone reversing.
Yeah.
And so we need to be ready. But there is still a diplomatic route. And that's what we encourage President Putin to take.
I just question this degree of certainty, Minister, because on the front page of the Times this morning, it says that Whitehall is convinced, senior figures in the government are convinced that Putin has made up his mind and is going to invade. But you're saying you're not quite there yet with that degree of certainty.
There is always hope. While people are still talking until that terrible act has been perpetrated, there is hope. But we have to be clear-eyed about this. We can see the build-up of troops that's there on the border. It's not coincidental. It is a real threat to life and limb in Ukraine and to the stability of Europe. And we must be ready for that. We stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine. We know that an incursion could be imminent. It could take a little bit longer. Whichever it is, we must be ready.
Obviously, the military invasion, that side of kinetic warfare is well understood, and that's what the worry is. But I wonder when it comes to cyber warfare and the attacks either on Ukraine or in other countries too, possibly Britain, whether you've seen an uptick in that in the course of the last few weeks.
So I'm afraid, Tom, that attacks and attempted attacks in the cyber sphere are not restricted to this immediate period that we're talking about. That's something that happens.
No, I understand, but whether there's been an increase in Russian aggression or attacks that have come from Russia.
No, we are not reporting on that at the moment. But we know we need to be ready. We know those capabilities are there. By the way, there's also a constant threat on cyber attack from the kind of commercial criminal sphere. So people be making sure that their organisations' cyber defences are as good as they can be is really, really important. I strongly encourage everybody to look at the guidance from the NCSC, National Cyber Security Centre, who can advise organisations big and small.
There's a suggestion in the papers this morning that there could be a cyber attack as a pretext to war in Ukraine done by Russia. Is it the case then that Britain is preparing itself for increased cyber attacks, possibly from Russia at the same time?
What you just outlined is very possible. This whole kind of notion of false flag attacks and diversionary tactics, general disinformation, and the wider discipline that we call information operations, in which the Putin regime is a global leader, Tom. All of that is very possible. And yes, it is very important that in this country we are ready. We are braced for what might happen in the cybersphere. That might be, by the way, about attacks on supposedly targets in Ukraine, but where, because of the interconnected nature of the world, the effect is felt far more widely. Or it could be something beyond the Ukraine, and indeed, of course, countries like ours have that to think about as well.
And so what have we done, Minister, in the last few weeks or last few days to test the resilience of that cyber infrastructure of critical national infrastructure?
So you'll understand that when it comes to critical national infrastructure, government departments and the wider public sector, we don't discuss precisely what our cyber defences are.
No, I understand that, but have there been rehearsals?
Reasons.
Have there been trials? Have there been COBRA meetings, local resilience forum? Has stuff been happening to try and get this into shape?
For obvious reasons, we don't go into detail. But yes, you are quite right that we have been upping our efforts to verify cybersecurity, but also for the wider economy. And this is a really important point to make. Of course, critical national infrastructure and government departments are really important, but so are companies in the private sector. And it's important for everybody to think about their cybersecurity. And as I say, both from the point of view of this kind of threat arena, but also more broadly from the general criminal activity, which also is regularly seeking to thieve people's personal details, ransomware, and so
on. Let me ask you about Storm Eunice. There's clear concern about that. The army at readiness and prepared to be deployed as and when, I suspect.
Absolutely right. There are military assistance is available if needed. Troops are a state of readiness. Also, of course, in the civilian effort, the Environment Agency is on the ground. The network operators themselves are very active, and a lot has been learned since Storm Arwen. But it looks set to be a very difficult storm. Having a red warning is unusual. I mean, having a second red warning is really unusual. And the advice to everybody is, of course, to take sensible precautions and let's all keep safe.
I wonder what you made of the comments of Angela Rayner, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, saying that police should shoot terrorists first and ask questions later. Do you agree?
Well, we have the rule of law, and we have a very clear framework within which our brilliant counter-terrorism police, our security service, and the wider, and the policing family in which they operate. And I think that is a good framework, an important one for us to uphold.
So maybe that view is a bit too gung-ho from the deputy leader of the Labour Party.
Look, as I say, I interact very regularly with our security and intelligence services, with police, and with counter-terrorism police. They take their responsibilities extremely seriously and working within the law extremely seriously, making sure that public support is there, and we're all upholding the rule of law.
So so the view is, it's up to the security services to decide what would be legal in deciding whether or not to shoot a terrorist.
No, Tom. Parliament decides what's legal, and then the security services and frontline law enforcement make sure they comply with that, and they do so incredibly assiduously in sometimes very, very difficult split-second decision circumstances. Sometimes it's not possible always to step back and think about things in the way that we might like. We also trust our people who put themselves in danger, who as run towards danger when we all everyone else is having to run away from it. We trust them to make the decisions they need to make on our behalf to try and keep us, our country, our values, and our loved ones safe.
And just very finally, talking of our values, I wonder if there's been any thought given at this early stage to how the UK would provide asylum or refuge to any Ukrainian refugees should this war take place.
Well, again, Tom, first of all, we hope the war doesn't take place. It doesn't have to take place. That is with Vladimir Putin. It's very clear that there is a diplomatic route available. I'm very much focused on making sure that British nationals who are in the Ukraine and their immediate families, husbands, wives, dependent children, that they're able to leave if that's what they wish to do. And we're prioritising those.
Yes. How many have you? How many people have you got out?
So there's relatively small numbers of people, British nationals, in the Ukraine, and some of those will wish to stay, have very deep family and other ties, and will wish to stay. It's relatively small numbers who've been applying so far for family visas for family members, but there are appointments available in the visa application centre. We've got a helpline up and running, and of course we're prioritising those cases and turning them around quickly.
Very good to speak to you. Thank you for your time. Damian Hinds, Security Minister, Conservative MP for East Hampshire. We'll come on more to this false flag, what's been called the false flag operation that took place in the Donbass region in a few moments, and we'll continue to focus on Storm Eustace as it blows through the United Kingdom. Tom Swarbrick on LBC. The news at 8 is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.